Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets presented by So Rare right here on Game Plus Network. Always appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out here. A busy Wednesday for you guys. We have our very own Alex Blickle stopping by. We're going to talk about the Rocket Mortgage Classic. And there's some names on this list that I'm not very familiar with. So it's good we got the pro in here, the co-host of Pro versus Pro, and he's red hot. He's fresh off a 100-1 hit last week at the Travelers. Keegan Bradley. And I got to ask him about Keegan because every time we come on, I feel like we have a Keegan conversation. It's got to be his guy. It's his guy. I know he checks a lot of boxes. Has to be his guy. But, man, Blickle, super sharp. He's hanging out right now, waiting for me to wrap up and get into him on block 2. But 7 outright winners already this season. It's June. He's got over 220 units won over at ftmbets.com already. And something we talk about a lot on this show is, you know, a lot of us give picks across other sports. And when we first started, we're coming up on 3 years, by the way, FTN Network, our 3-year anniversary just around the corner. Well, we started around July and then we had a pushback. 2020 was a weird year. But when we first started ftmbets.com, we had packages just for certain sports. Now we have the entire package, and we talk about it a lot on the show. We have the free preview, the free trial at ftmbets.com/free, ftndaily.com/free. And with a betting package, you're going to get all the picks across all the sports from absolutely everybody. Dream is killing it. He's up over 50 units in Major League Baseball, and I think he's won like 30 over the past 6 or 7 days. He's hot fire. He was like 7-0, I think, last Friday evening. We still have some NHL stuff happening. I got 5 NHL draft props here for you today, but we have some picks in our tracker. PGA, MLB, NBA, and NHL will be here before you know it. NFL futures are in the tracker. And if you do want to get involved with a little bit of PGA DFS, I mean, now is the time to get it done, right? It's NASCAR optimizer. We have a PGA optimizer, and of course we have an NFL optimizer, but we have other things that is involved with this package. Of course, we have Discord channels split up into all the sports. We have tools, projections that you can see there. Jeff Ratcliffe has his projections already live over at ftnfantasy.com. And speaking of Jeff Ratcliffe, his guide came out today, the ultimate fantasy football game plan with a ton of stats. It really is a ton of stats. If you're a numbers guy or gal, this is for you. Kind of like a little bit of a recap of last year where players finished, weekly finishes. How many times did Devontae Smith finish as a wide receiver 1? It's all there for you. And draft strategy heading into this year's draft. So a lot of goodness in this guide. Check it out over at ftnfantasy.com. And I want to give some away as well to some people here in the house. And it's pretty simple. All you got to do here today is hop on over to our FTN Network YouTube page. I know a lot of people just maybe listen on iTunes and Spotify or watch on Game Plus Network. Hop over to our FTN Network YouTube page and leave me your favorite draft target. That's it. No question, no trivia. Just leave me your favorite draft target in fantasy football. Maybe you're already drafting a player that you have a lot of shares of, player that you want. Could be a first round pick, could be a middle round pick, late round pick, whatever it is. I saw somebody talk to me about Robbie Chosen today. And I was like, wait, who is that guy again? Oh yeah, it's Robbie Anderson. Hey, it could be him if you want. I mean, it probably shouldn't be, but it could be anybody that you want. And then we'll put these names into a draw and we'll hook you guys up with one of these packages. I want to show it off. It's fantastic work done by Jeff and our guy George as well. So check it out. It is available over at ftnfantasy.com, but we'll give away a couple here on the show. Do me a solid. Also like this video, subscribe to our FTN Network YouTube page, subscribe to Pro versus Pro with Blickle and the golf show, weekly golf show as well. So he's in here next. We'll dive into the leaderboard. We got some, I got some questions for him. I may just do some rapid fire stuff with him, some player versus player stuff, because again, there's some guys that I'm a little bit unfamiliar with. It's been a crazy 24 hours in the NHL, a handful of trades. I mean, we've seen 8 trades here in the last 24 hours. I don't even know if we saw 8 trades in the regular season, but Tyler Toffoli's got a new team, and I tell you what, now's the time to get on the New Jersey Devils. 13-1 last night. I saw this morning just 10-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Quan's giving all the goods away. It's okay. A little bit of a sneak peek. We'll break it all down in a little bit. Pierre-Luc Dubois, George's guy, is now a member of the Los Angeles Kings, and he got paid. And also Alex Newhook. And then the Avs took one of those picks that the Canadians sent for Newhook and flipped it for Ross Colton. And then there's going to be more things that are happening here today. As I said, the NHL draft is in Nashville tonight. So we do have 5 NHL draft props, and we do have some MLB props and picks as well. It's a little bit of a later night in the Major League Baseball around the diamond. There's at least one or two early afternoon games. So we're going to attack it from a late slate standpoint for the Game Plus Network crew. We did okay yesterday. Toronto people, how about Gossman? I mean, you don't want to talk about Alec Manoah, and I don't blame him. Dude got roughed up like high A ball the other day. But Kevin Gossman's strikeout prop yesterday was 6.5, and he had double digits. He had 12, and Toronto couldn't get him any runs. But he has been absolutely amazing this year, second in the bigs behind Strider in terms of strikeouts. And, of course, we went to Shohei over 7.5. All he did yesterday was hit home run number 27, 28, and struck out 10. I don't know what that contract's going to look like, but it may be 650. It may push 7 if he continues to keep this up. Wild stuff. Daily Handle, Jordan Allen in the house. Good afternoon, Means, and everybody. Free agency around the corner as well. Yeah, it's a big week. You know, it's a slow week, I suppose, in the sports world if you're not into the NHL and the NBA. But the NBA free agency this week, we have the NHL free agency July 1st, Canada Day, and then we have, of course, the NHL Draft happening tonight as well. Welcome in, Jordan Allen. We got some golf picks here next for you. Also going to take a look at receiving yard prop leaders. We did rushing yards. We did passing yards. We'll take a look at receiving yards. And I do believe we'll have some time towards the end of the show. I want to show you the first 6 rounds of a RotoWire online classic draft, NFFC high stakes leagues. It's like $250 entry. I want to show you how the first 6 rounds went. There is a quarterback that went in the first round. We've talked a lot about the strategy for quarterbacks, but keep in mind it's a 6 points for a passing touchdown in there. FIBA under 19 basketball this week as well. Looks like you're going to have your hands full there, Jordan Allen. Golf is next. Blickle's in the house. Keep her locked. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Chris Meaney and Alex Blickle here with you, the co-host of Pro versus Pro, our PGA expert, fresh off a 100-1 win. Keegan Bradley, congratulations, sir. Fantastic. Well done. And your 7th outright of the season. It's not even July yet. What the heck?
It's been a fun year at FTN. I got to say, like, it feels so good to have those communal wins where it wasn't just me hitting Keegan. We had so many guys in the Discord, betting Discord, all sweating that together, and he certainly made it a bit of a sweat, more than it had to be down the stretch, but really fun to come out with the winner.
Yeah, you're right. I saw some, green screens in the Discord channel, on Twitter. Geez, our own guy Marshall threw $10 pizza money on it, went over a G on that. So you're in his good books for sure. You're in mine. You're always in mine. Of course, I'm always sprinkling. And there's something about Keegan. Last time we chatted was Keegan. Yeah. I know he checks all these boxes for you, but what's the deal with Keegan Bradley and you?
It's cool because I think we can use Keegan as an example for one of the most important concepts that I think exists in PGA betting, PGA DFS, all that. And it's this idea that volatility works in both directions, right? So we saw him have a disastrous week at the US Open. He was terrible. He made bad decisions and he misses the cut by a mile. And then he comes back the next week and he plays near flawless golf for 3.5 rounds, pretty much. And so the downside that comes with a player like that, you have to accept it, because the flip side is when he gets it going, he ends up winning tournaments. He contends in really difficult fields on difficult courses, all of that. So the other aspect here is, I think there's like this great tendency, and it's human nature to some degree, that if you backed Keegan Bradley at the US Open and he has this disastrous performance for you, and maybe you had like a DraftKings lineup that was really good other than him, and if he had just made the cut, maybe you would have had a chance to win a ton of money. And so you get into this zone where you want to say, like, I'm never playing Keegan again. I'm never doing that again. He's terrible. I'm not putting myself through that again. He comes back the next week and he wins. So you have to be really patient with these guys, especially the players like Keegan, who part of the thesis of playing them in the first place is that they're really volatile, which can work out really poorly, or it can work out as well as it did last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something to be said about that. I want to dive into a little bit more. I know before we got on, you and I chatted about, our buddy Pat Mayo, who everybody is well aware of, especially those at Anthem Sports Entertainment and Game Plus Network. Just in the past, when a player, won a tournament or did well in DFS, most likely won a tournament, whether it wasn't a stud. It could have been, something like Keegan. Like, I've looked back at your outright winners, dude. Like, you got Moore at 80-1. You got Russell Henley at 50-1. Siwoo Kim 50-1. Here, Keegan Bradley 100-1. And Keegan Bradley, we can just dive into a quant if you want to show the odds, and we can just dive into this. Keegan is, of course, on this board at 25-1. And you chatted before you got on. Maybe if that number was a little longer at 30 or 35, you'd be into it. Of course, this is a very different field. You'll recognize some of these names up at the top. Tony Finau, Ricky Fowler's just been on a hell of a run at 14-1. Colin Morikawa at 14, Hideki at 16, JT at 18, Kim there at 20 with Im, and then Bradley at 25. Aberg in there, not gonna lie, I don't know much about him. Brian Harman in there at 40-1 as well. But is there something to be said about maybe just crossing off a guy like Keegan in the DFS world after a win like that? Or is it a contrarian play to maybe go after him again? And this may be a wrong week to do it because the field is a little bit shorter, but in the past, Mayo would just be like, he'd put up a board like this and say, you know what? I'm just crossing Keegan off. Like, I'm not playing him in DFS and that's it. But I feel like a lot of people kind of go that route, Blickle.
There are multiple ways to take this conversation. I think the way that I'll approach this is Justin and I on Pro vs. Pro have tried to do a lot of this throughout the year, which is talk about the psychological battle of coming off of a win. And every win is going to be different. Every player is going to be different. What that challenge is the following week is going to be different each time. There are two things that really stand out to me about the challenge of coming off of a win. Number one is you just spent a ton of mental energy to close out that win. When you're in contention, it's so difficult to stay in the present, to just focus on the process of what is the next shot I have to hit? How do I want to approach this hole and execute these swings, put myself in the best position on this hole, and keep out the thoughts of, oh, this is going to feel so amazing when I win. I'm going to make $3 million this week, like whatever it is, right? So it's so taxing mentally and psychologically to stay in the moment and get it done that a lot of the time, especially if, now Keegan has won a major in the past. Yes, this is one of the bigger wins of his career, especially because it's a hometown event. But there are going to be other times like Wyndham Clark at the US Open. That's a career-changing, career-defining win. It's probably a lot tougher for him to come back the next week and get back into contention than it would be for Keegan this week, for example. But the other aspect of it is, and I think this is a really unique way of looking at it that not a lot of people have considered, you just went through a week. If you won, by definition, like every single time that you were faced with a par putt or a difficult up and down that you felt like you had to make to keep the momentum going, you did it. You converted it. Things kept going your way when they needed to. So if you go to the next week then, and you're faced with a similar situation, and this time you can't convert it, you can't make the 12-foot par save, you can't hit the difficult bunker shot within 6 feet. Whatever it is, it's a bit of a shock to the system. It's like, oh yeah, this golf thing, it can go poorly. I kind of much more fun when everything just goes my way.
I think we were just spoiled back in the day with Tiger, like week in and week out. And Scotty's kind of remind me of Tiger over the past couple of years too. Like this year hasn't been a ton of wins, but it's just consistently he's like top five, where it's like it is such a mental game. And I know those that, just casually play golf are sitting back saying, yeah, it is. It's tough to get through one round, let alone four. And then you're right. The emotion to get your mindset for a quick turnaround for another tournament if you're back at it like Keegan is. So let's take a look at that board again. I know you're into taking long shots and you've hit a lot of long shots here, but just talk to me about the top of the board here and Ricky's game. You and I chatted, I think, at the start of the season about Ricky, and I think you and Justin had some conversations as well, right? On pro versus pro about like a new mentality for Ricky this year. And my goodness, this guy, I know he hasn't put together some wins lately, Alex, but man, he's been right there and he's been setting course records like every other day here for the past couple of weeks.
It's so fun watching him play like this. Now, I will say I'm not interested in betting him this week. Our simulations show the favorite this week, Tony Finau, only has a 4.0% chance of winning. The implied odds at this 14-1 number that both he, Ricky, and Morikawa are at is 6.67%. So very clearly, no value there. In fact, I think those are all pretty poor bets. Keegan is actually the first guy up here that we were close to having value on at 30-1, where he was available earlier in the week at some places. That was a 3.3% implied probability. We have him at 3.7%. Now, that 3.7 doesn't factor in the difficulties we just talked about of coming back from a win. Although I will say, like in favor of Keegan, there's also the path where he comes out Thursday, everything's clicking again. He's 6-7 under, something like that, and he just can ride this wave of really good play with the confidence soaring. So I think there's a bit of like almost a binary type of outcome for him, where either he's going to continue to play really well or he's not. And if that's the case, then he's less likely to battle back and turn it into a good week than he would be not coming off of a win. Yeah,
it's all 28-1, Alex, on him.
There's just not a ton in this range that I really like. And it just gets back to that concept of we're just not finding a ton of value at the top of boards because these guys are all either priced appropriately or they're priced where like it's almost like the books know these are the guys people want to bet on. We don't have to put fair numbers. They're going to bet on these guys no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you see that across a lot of other sports as well. Like the Leafs come to mind in the NHL, the Cowboys in the NFL as well. George, Luke list season. Should we bring it up for him? We got a little bit of a surprise. How the list stole Christmas. What do you think about that? George is always up to all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, we're not exactly in Christmas season right now, but I'm sure he has stolen a Christmas from us before. We have been burned many times throughout the years by a list. Now, he's also won us quite a bit of money too, but he might be the most frustrating guy to bet on in golf because he just hits great shot after great shot and then ruins it all on the greens. He's one of those guys, and there's a lot of those guys out there that can ruin it on the greens, and Luke List is one of them. I think George has bet on him a few times. You as well. This may be like just like kind of sucker bets. I know you're into like the 80s and 80-1 and 90-1 that you hit and stuff like that, but Keegan for a top 20 finish at plus 140, like, is there anything wrong with that? I mean, even Keegan for a top 30 finish at minus 110, like, I feel like that's not a decent little bet. And Ricky, even for a top 20, is minus 115. Like, who do you think has a better chance of finishing top 20 this week, Ricky or Keegan? Boy, that's tough. Top 10 odds, we have Keegan ahead. So we've got Keegan with a 22% chance at a top 10 and Ricky Fowler with 19.2%. So I'll take the Keegan side. And I think I would say Fowler has a higher chance of making the cut. Their top 40 odds are probably really similar. And then top 10 and better than that, I'll give Keegan the nod.
Yeah, 3-1 for Keegan over at DK for him to come top 10. All right, give us a name then that maybe we're unfamiliar with. I don't want to give all the goods away. I want people to check you out over at FTN Bets. We have all kinds of articles, right? I mean, betting articles, DFS articles from the golf team. It's all included. Again, like I said off the top of the show, if you want to just see what we're all about, this is a great time to see it this weekend. You can take a look at the optimizers and PGA and MLB and just hang out in the Discord channel and see how active everybody is in the thought process, even after round one. Okay, like this guy's really playing good round one. We got to have him on our radar, whether it's prize picks or props. But is there a name that you can, from a DFS standpoint, from a DraftKings or an outright standpoint, somebody that you feel like, hey, don't be surprised if this guy's hanging around on moving day or into Sunday?
Well, listen, I think George wants us to talk about Luke List. So why don't we start?
So,
there?
yeah.
So List is a really interesting one this week because all of the numbers say we should be kind of all in on him. We've got him at a 1.1% chance of a win at 150-1, which is where he's been available for most of the week. I'm not 100% sure that he's still available there, but if he is, that's like I think it was a 0.66% implied win probability. So 1.1%, we're showing a ton of value on him. The difficulty that I have is List's game is so well suited for difficult scoring conditions. And we see that throughout his results over the last few years. In fact, in the last 3 years, he has only reached 20 under par in one event, the Tournament of Champions this year. This isn't an accident. It's because he gains in ways that is going to be most powerful when conditions are most difficult. He drives the ball incredibly well. When he's been at his best, his short game has been solid. His iron play is solid. The issue for him is always making putts. And when you get into these really low-scoring environments like we expect this week, to shoot 20 under or something like that, you do have to end up making your fair share of putts. So I struggle to see him contending. I think where I'm landing is I'm not going to bet him outright, but I am going to play him on DraftKings. I think his chances like a top 10 finish, top 20 finish are quite good, even if I don't see him winning the tournament.
And if he doesn't, boom, right there.
Exactly.
You know, I see over at using our prop shop free tool over at ftnbets.com is 125-1 over at BetMGM for List and Caesars PointsBet as well. There is a couple hundreds hanging around, one at Bet Rivers and one at DK, but there's a couple 125s out there. Do you play any of this like matchup stuff, you know, round matchups or like, you know, round one? For example, I was on DK, like Chris Kirk versus Webb Simpson or like Nick Hardy versus Webb Simpson, Morikawa versus Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley plus 115, Morikawa minus 140 for round one. Do you get involved with any of those props? Do you see any value? Like if I
every now and then I do.
Yeah.
The very specific thing that I look for
to hit.
Yeah, the specific thing that I look for is I want plus odds on a guy that we show as being favored. If I can find that, I'll bet it. But it's so difficult to say, hey, I've got this guy favored, but I think he should be minus 150 instead of minus 175 or something like that, right? So those bets I think are really difficult to find value on. Where it becomes clear is I'm getting plus odds on a guy that I think has a better than a 50% chance of winning. Great, I'll take that one.
And I mean, it's just one round, right? Like Cam Davis versus Adam Hadwin. Adam Hadwin at plus 110. Like he could have a better tournament than him, but it's. I don't really get involved with them, but I think if I were to, I would go your route with maybe the plus money there. Any final words? If I know it's kind of difficult sometimes when we're in this field. I find personally like to sell yourself and sell FTN for the packages, and I know we're some stuff we have behind the paywall, but I want to give you an opportunity. I mean, it's obviously worth it when you're hitting 7 outrights over the first couple months of the golf season. It's going to pay for itself for the next couple of years for sure. Even if you put pizza money on it, but tell the people what they get when they are involved with the PGA package from a betting or a DFS standpoint at FTN.
I think we've got this really awesome balance now of coming at PGA from all angles. The show that I have with Justin, Justin is all about the feel of, he and I are both professional golfers. Justin's basically like his entire analysis comes from the perspective that he has gained as a player and from having all these great connections to current tour players. Like he texts Siwoo Kim on a daily basis or a weekly basis, things like that. And then both Josh Culp and I are really analytical and So we're getting this like great balance of really unique and powerful data, like the split stuff that Josh does. You can find how players have done in really difficult scoring conditions. You can find how they've done on different types of grass or on short courses versus long courses, things of that nature. And then you get the really unique course fit model that I'm bringing and some proprietary data like strokes gained driving accuracy or our birdie rate over expectation metric. And then we just have a lot of fun in the Discord as well. And we talk through things. We talk through strategy. We talk through players. We've got showdown ownership projections. So I think we're just bringing a lot to the table that you can't find elsewhere, and then bringing it all together and creating this really good product for both betting and DFS. And it's just been a ton of fun.
Yeah, man, I've been hanging out in that Discord channel, just, seeing the conversation and having you guys pop in. And it really does seem like a really nice family. And again, ftnbets.com. ftndaily.com/free. And I did ask people off the top of the show to give their favorite fantasy football target if they wanted, a draft guide or something like that. If you'd rather a PGA package, hit me up and we'll make that happen. Alex, appreciate it. Good stuff, man. As always, good luck this weekend. And I hope Luke List takes it down for you, me, the viewers, and for George. Give Alex a follow on the Twitter machine. Check out Pro versus Pro. Like you said, he's just touched on it a little bit there. Super modest. You guys are fantastic together. And you're right. It's unlike anything across the industry. Mm-hmm. You got two professional golfers, and it's always a really good conversation in the ins and outs. It's like different convos that I hear with you guys that you just wouldn't hear elsewhere. So really appreciate your time. Again, good luck. Check out Alex, Pro versus Pro. We're going to switch gears here a little bit, get into some NHL and some NFL stuff. In fact, I think I want to show the first 6 rounds of the high stakes league that I saw last night on Twitter as well. So we'll dive into that here next. Keep your luck. We'll be back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in. Let's take a look at 6 rounds, the first 6 rounds of a high stakes league here, RotoWire Online Championship. I forget who I saw this from. I should be a better host than this. Anyways, this is how the first 6 rounds of this high stakes league went. And again, I just want to show you, it's still early, of course, it's the end of June, but I want to just walk through and show you guys really how these experts, it's $250 entry. Actually, I think it's $350 entry. Just want to show you guys how these experts are drafting and how, the first few rounds of a draft may look like. Hopefully you guys can see this pretty good, but I'll read it off here for the iTunes and Spotify listeners here. I just want to say off the top, it's a reverse, like round 3's reversal. So it starts here at Justin Jefferson. Round 2 starts at CeeDee Lamb, and then round 2 ends at Jalen Waddle. But The team 12 will start round 3. And I love this. It keeps it fair, right? It is beneficial to have the first pick. I do believe that it's beneficial, and I like this. So anyways, it starts Justin Jefferson. No surprise, first pick off the board. Christian McCaffrey, if it was me, I'd probably go Chase, Hill, Cup before I get involved with the running backs. But Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, right here. This is where he's been living in the middle part of the first round. This is pick 7. Stephon Diggs, Patrick Mahomes. Again, this is 6 points for a passing touchdown. Bijan Robinson, on average, this is where he's going, around pick 10, 11. And the third running back off of the board, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Nick Chubb. Man, get yourself some Nick Chubb. He's going to have 2,000 total yards this year. I think if he catches 35 balls, he could. Josh Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Hurts, and Tony Pollard. Okay, Joe Burrow's in here. Again, 6-point passing touchdown, so a little bit earlier than you'd normally see him go. Pollard in there, as what is this? RB 4, 5, 6, 7, RB 7. Yeah, he's only got one game with over 20 carries, or at least 20 carries. He's coming off a broken fibula, a fractured fibula, but all signs point to him being ready to go. I saw an article from him just a few days ago said he feels faster and he's ready to be on the field right now. So I still think Dallas brings in a veteran back. I don't know, but Pollard is a late second pick here. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and then it gets into again the start of the third round is owner 12 with Najee Harris, Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing yards last year. Drake London, fairly early for me, I think, in London. I think I'd rather have DK Metcalf and Jerry Jeudy, and they just go after Derrick Henry there, who did have career highs in terms of targets and receiving yards and catches, added another element to his game that I think Nick Chubb will add to his game this season. Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson. I love Stevenson. Love Hall too, but certainly love Stevenson there. Hopkins still without a team at the end of the third. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, back-to-back tight ends there. Debo Samuel. I would never pick Debo over Amari Cooper. Travis Etienne, Christian Watson, my guy. Watson for me is a little bit higher in my ranks. I'd rather Watson than Debo, a Hopkins, and a Drake London. Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Lamar Jackson. Good value there in Lamar Jackson in the fourth, what he can do with his legs, and added new weapons, new offensive coordinator, new offense there in Baltimore this year. Christian Kirk, Ken Walker. The third, Terry McLaurin, Trevor Lawrence, Chris Godwin. We're not going in the right order here. We went this way, and then we came back. Oh, yeah, we are. Bats. McLaurin, Lawrence, Godwin, Joe Mixon, Lockett, Justin Herbert. Really good value here with these quarterbacks and Fields and Herbert and Lawrence. I like living in that range if you're not going to attack the first tier. Kittle, Jones, Deontay Johnson, fairly early for me. I hope he'll get some touchdowns this year, but I don't know, man. I think Pickett's the guy there. Pickens. Cook, Fields, Tua, Ayuk, Kadarius Toney, Dak Prescott, J.K. Dobbins, I think pretty good value there. Marquise Brown, Michael Pittman, Miles Sanders, good value. Javonte Williams, Alexander Mattison, Mike Williams, and Cam Akers there to round out the sixth. That is the correct order. A couple things. Adam Schmansky in the house, what up? I think, I think CeeDee Lamb. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked ahead of Wilson, and he's in the same tier for me as A.J. Brown. I think, that's a good pick there. Madison is a good also. I don't know if it's a steal. I'm kind of with you. He was a steal. We just didn't know where Dalvin Cook, if he would be released. We thought he would be released, but he was going around pick 100, and now here on average, he's probably living in the late 40s and 50s. I don't know. I have to check in on his underdog, but we did a draft immediately after that happened, and he went pick 47, and Cook went late 50s. So Cook, I don't know the rest of this draft, but wherever Cook went is a steal, and I don't care where he ends up in the NFL, but that's a back that if he ends up in Miami, he's going to be ranked for me as a top 20 back. There's no question. I think, Sanders and Dobbins are good picks. It's interesting about Javonte Williams. It's interesting about Javonte here because I agree with this, and I've talked about him being one of the better values among running backs as a guy that you can get outside round 9 in underdog best ball drafts. And I think you could make a case for anybody in best ball drafts because, you're just drafting and you're forgetting about it. You're shooting for upside. You know, you don't have to set your lineups. You're not hitting the waiver wire. It's just whoever has the better weeks get into your lineup. And it's easier to swallow a draft pick like Javonte Williams, who may not be ready until, you know, full go until October, maybe week 4 or 5. But everything that I'm reading is he looks ready. He's ahead of schedule. He's on the field getting touches. Sean Payton, what he has done with running backs, I just think of, you know, Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara a few years ago, not recently, a few years ago, where Alvin Kamara was catching balls out of the backfield. Mark Ingram, they were both a great 1-2 punch. They were both RB1s in fantasy one season. Now, I don't think that Samaje Perine will be an RB1 in fantasy, but I think that they'll use both of these guys. I think Perine is a good pass blocker, and I think he's going to get some catches. But Javonte Williams is a clear-cut winner in the 9th round. This is a guy that you can draft in the 9th right now in Underdog Best Ball, maybe with your buddies. Maybe you can buy low in Dynasty. People are uncertain about him, and he could be a league winner for you. Forget October. Forget September. You want to have a back like Javonte Williams, who has top 10 upside to be a top 10 running back in fantasy in December. You're going to add him. He could be full go in December. You're adding that guy. I just been drafting him as much as I can in Underdog as my 3rd, my 4th running back, knowing that he could be my best running back on the squad when it matters the most. Under Best Ball is a little bit different. Head-to-head, of course, beneficial there. And in this format, that was the big takeaway for me. We're going to bring it up one more time. These experts are drafting Javonte Williams. Where is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is Ramondre. Gibbs 13, just too early. ETN 14, 15 Walker, 16 Mixon, 17 AJ Jones. Oh, Cook did go. Excuse me, I missed that. 18, so 19, 20, 21. He's going at 21. RB 21. Underdog Fantasy, he's been going like RB 35. So it's something to show you guys. These guys are just straight up ballers. You're doing a draft, a $350 entry draft at the end of June, and you're drafting a guy like Javonte Williams, who he's only going to move up draft boards. I have a really good feeling if we fast forward 4 weeks, 6 weeks, everybody's going to be talking about Javonte Williams. They're going to adjust all their rankings. They're going to have him roughly RB20. Again, I think he has upside to be an RB1. That just goes to show right there where people are willing to take him at this moment in time in the 6th round in a 12-team league, and I've been seeing him go in the 9th and the 10th round over at Underdog. So get him now while it's hot. Check in on the owner. I'd make some calls. I've been making some calls. I think he's an absolute baller. I think he's a stud, and I think Denver offense is going to be a lot better this year. It has to be. It can't be any worse. We're going to break. We'll take a look at the receiving yard leaders via DraftKings, and then we'll get into I got some NHL draft props, and I do want to go over some of the madness in the NHL. I wanted to push that back a little bit just in case we saw another trade here live on Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight. Welcome back in. Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. It's been one of those days, just a little sluggish. I don't know. Maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm excited about the NHL Draft. All these trades happening. It just, I'm like tripping upstairs, downstairs. I thought I hit the coffee pot. Didn't hit the coffee pot. I'm dropping things. Just like I got Gabe Davis hands here today. I can't hold on to anything. Receiving area leaders. Gabe Davis ain't on it, nor should he be. We're taking a look at the top 20, roughly, over at DraftKings. Justin Jefferson, no surprise, right? Justin Jefferson, since he's entered the league, all he's done is lead the NFL in receiving yards over the last 3 years. He's coming off a season with 1,800 yards, 884 targets, and 128 catches. Jamar Chase in there at 6-1, Cooper Kupp 8-1, Tyreek Hill 9-1, Devontae Adams at 12-1, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce at 20-1. We have CeeDee Lamb at 22, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown at 25, Jalen Waddle at 30-1, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, and Amon-Ra St. Brown at 35-1. Again, we talked about Amon-Ra yesterday as a guy that's going as a top 10 wide receiver, but he plays in the slot. He's not a big yardage guy. He's going to rack up a ton of catches, more of a boost in a full point setting in a PPR league, but it just goes to show, right? I mean, he's not going to, all the other names that are getting drafted in the first and second round, like all those names in the top left, not in the same ballpark here. Mike Williams at 45-1, Devontae Smith, Slim Reaper at 45-1. I think that's pretty interesting. I believe he came top 10 last year in receiving yards. Yes, 8th with just under 1,200. Terry McLaurin at 50-1, Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore, Christian Watson at 51 as well. It's easy to sit here and say, Justin Jefferson. It's like yesterday, Patrick Mahomes, right, at plus 550, Nick Chubb at plus 450. No shock if, it was JJ who led the league in receiving yards, or maybe Jamar Chase who had 1,000 yards and only played 12 games, but you really are looking for some value. And again, like I said yesterday and the day before when breaking these things down, we're not rooting for injuries, but something may have to break your way in order for you to hit one of these long shots. I think that Jamar Chase and Jefferson, even at those, prices, I think they're fine. I'd have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong for me. Like, I know we just talked with Blickle and he hits 80-1s and 100-1s, but I would be okay if I hit a 14-1. I'd be fine if I hit a plus 550 or a 6-1 on one of these guys. But I think you have to seek some value. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. The two Philly boys are going to stand out to me, obviously, but for AJ Brown, who finished 4th in receiving yards last year, just under 1,500, set a Philly record. And then also Devontae Smith, who I mentioned, who came top 8 in receiving yards at just under 1,200. It's a tougher schedule, which maybe the games are a little bit more competitive. You got to keep in mind, Philly hardly trailed at all last year. I think they were just cruising in all of their games. Jalen Hurts only lost 2, and one was in the Super Bowl, and he had like the best performance all time, really, from a quarterback. Maybe not all time, but he did things that quarterbacks have never done, like the 300 passing yards and rushing touchdowns. But maybe more of a competitive schedule maybe means more chucking. So those two guys do stand out to me. Chris Olave at 35-1 certainly does as well, just because of Michael Thomas's health, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy over the past couple of years. So Olave could be in a very similar situation like he was last year as the clear-cut number one option in a passing game that I think should be better with Derek Carr under center. I believe he's a little bit more accurate than the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. So 35-1 for him is okay. Mike Williams, unfortunately for health, he hasn't been able to stay on the field, but with Kellen Moore there now, deeper shots down the field, Mike Williams high A dot, right? I think Mike Williams at 45-1 is worth a little bit of a sprinkle, but I would live in this bottom range. The Jerry Jeudy at 50-1, the DJ Moore at 50-1, the Christian Watson at 50-1. For DJ Moore, we can say what you want about Justin Fields and the quarterback play that certainly he hasn't had over the course of his career, but he has been among the leaders inside the top 10 over the last 5 years in receiving yards. He just doesn't have the touchdowns, but the way that Justin Fields can extend plays, move around in the pocket, and the way that DJ Moore can, his route running ability, find some soft coverage, he's explosive after the catch. I feel like there's going to be a lot of boom weeks for DJ Moore. It could be very boom or bust. He may not have consistently, 5 catches for 85 yards. That may not be his average. He may live in the 60, 65 yard per game average. I think he's going to be a target hog. I would imagine he's going to get about 8 targets per game, but there are going to be some boom weeks from him where 130 plus receiving yards. I really do believe that for him in this offense. So that's where I would live. A really good tip here from Adam. Yeah, I love that. The 35-1, most receptions, must better than his yards. And unfortunately, that's 20-1. But I don't mind that 20-1, right? Especially Jamison Williams out for the first 6 weeks of the season. No TJ Hawkinson. He should rack up a ton of catches. How many catches did Amon-Ra have last year? He must have had over 106 grabs. But again, only 1,100 receiving yards. But the 106 catches, the fifth most at the wide receiver position. JJ 128, $119 for Tyreek, $108 for Stephon Diggs, and 107 for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, got to remember, Dak missed some time last year too. I know Cooks is back, but I'm not a huge believer in Brendan Cooks. CeeDee Lamb he may just be top 2 or 3 in terms of targets this year. And big playability written all over him as well. I think we may see him play a little bit more in the slot. We'll see how the offense looks without Moore there under center. We're going to switch gears, finish up the show with a couple NHL draft props, and we'll take a look at some of the trades that have happened in the NHL, and then we have some MLB picks to round out the show as well. Keep it locked. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Quan, breaking news for us. This is from Adam Schefter. Quote, a handful of NFL players, including Colts quarterback Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to receive season-long suspensions for gambling. Man, we're seeing a lot of this across sports now lately, especially in the NFL, right? Jamison Williams, that was gambling. I do believe it was. Of course, Calvin Ridley missed an entire season, and now some news here. So we'll keep an eye on that. Several players. We wonder what other names are going to come up here. Okay, let's get into some of the trades here. These are some things that have happened here in the last 24 hours. Tyler Toffoli, man, what a player he is. I mean, he's a proven Stanley Cup winner. He's been to multiple Stanley Cup finals. He's just a rock solid 25-plus goal scorer. He had a fantastic season for Calgary. The New Jersey Devils, man, the rich get richer here. I really like the direction of this squad. They got young blue liners coming up like Luke Hughes. They're loaded down the middle with, Jack Hughes and, oh my goodness, why is Nico Hischier? Man, I told you it's one of those days. Toffoli's going to play with either Hughes or Nico Hischier. You got Jesper Bratt, who's going to be under contract here soon. Some reports suggest that the Devils are close to locking up Timo Meier on an 8-year contract extension as well. And a really light return for the Flames. This is going to be another brutal offseason for Calgary. I don't think they're going to be able to, you could see Hanifin and Backlund traded. We could see Lindholm traded as well. There's some reports that Calgary's going to really offer him a healthy contract to maybe overpay and just try to keep some bodies in Alberta. But Tyler Toffoli is going to bring a lot to the table. The Devils are going to be one of the funnest teams to watch in the NHL again this season. They're going to come at you in waves, a lot of offense to offer. And I think a little bit of an underwhelming return there, third round pick, which has been moved around a lot. I believe that's the Canadiens. But Igor Sharangovich is a player that I do like, but he's like a middle six guy. He might get an opportunity to play inside the top six with the Flames, but I don't think he has that type of upside. But Toffoli is going to be a great fantasy target for a lot of us, and I like the Devils at 13-1. A little bit of a sprinkle there, which may be gone, as I said off the top of the show. I think that's gone at 10-1, but it's just going to get shorter and shorter, the odds, as we get closer to puck drop. The Habs, in a bit of a surprising move here, acquired Alex Newhook from the Colorado Avalanche for the first and second round pick. You'd think the Habs would hang on to some of those picks, but I think it was 30th and then 37th, and then the Avs turned that one of those picks they traded to Ross Colton the second round. So the Avs got Ross Colton and a first and a prospect, as you see there, 31 and 37. Frank Cervalli there. And so the Avs just essentially turned Newhook into Ross Colton, got his rights. He's an RFA, and then another pick there and a prospect. But as for Newhook, this, again, it was a little bit of a surprising, I think, trade here, because it's a lot to kind of give up for a guy like Newhook, but he's still only 22 years old. He's played 159 games. He only has 27 goals and 66 points. He has won a Stanley Cup. Colorado gave him an opportunity to really play in a top six when guys like Landeskog and Nichushkin and Lehkonen, they had a ton of injuries up and down their lineup. But the Habs get younger here. I'm still on the fence. Good Newfie boy. I like that. Love my Newfies, Newfoundlander. So 2 thumbs up for that. It comes with a ton of speed. And the Canadiens did this last year with Kirby Dach. They bought low on Kirby Dach, who, was a third overall pick in 2019. And he was an RFA. And I think it's worked out. It's only been one season, but, that seemed like a really good buy low. And I think Kent Hughes and the Canadiens are thinking the same thing. Let's buy low on a player that Kent Hughes is familiar with, same agency as what Kent Hughes was, the head of before he landed the GM job with the Montreal Canadiens. So there's a little bit of familiarity there. Also played with Nick Suzuki at the World Juniors, Team Canada a couple years ago. And now the Canadiens have 3 of the top 12 scorers from the 2019 draft with Cole Caulfield and Kirby Dach, along with Newhook in there as well. So we'll see. Ton of speed. I think he does have upside to potentially be, a second line player for them. But if not, he's a third line player that comes with a ton of speed, and we're not sure on the upside yet. The biggest trade there is Pierre-Luc Dubois. Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was rumored to go to the Montreal Canadiens, goes to the Kings. And I think LA overpaid here a little bit as well, just slightly overpaid for, shipping off assets like Alafalo and Velarde, who I really like as a player. I think the Jets did pretty good there, knowing that, Pierre-Luc Dubois wanted out of town, and does he want out of LA in a couple of years? I mean, hopefully not, because he signed an 8-year, $8.5 million per. I mean, he wanted out of Columbus. He wanted out of Winnipeg. Again, when you like a player and you feel like your window is right now, you have to be aggressive getting these guys. Later on down the road, we may look at this contract and be like, you know what? He's paid as a number one center. He's not a number one center. His career best is like 62, 63 points. But there's one thing that's for sure is the Kings are super deep down the middle now with Anze Kopitar, Philip Deneau, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Pierre-Luc Dubois going to play with Kevin Fiala. And we expect, Kempe to play with Kopitar and to keep that second line intact with Arvidsson, Trevor Moore, and Philip Deneau. All of a sudden, the Kings got 3 lines, right? They've run into the Edmonton Oilers in the first round in each of the past 2 seasons, haven't been able to get past them. Now they would have the advantage, I would say. I know Draisaitl and McDavid down the middle is great, but the third line center in Pierre-Luc Dubois is, even though he's paid like a first line center, most teams are not going to be able to match up, that deep when you play the Kings, who are loaded. What else do we have here? Oh, the draft props. So got to get into the draft props as well. Cue it up. Hanging around. This is a new segment we're going to do. We're starting it off here right now. I don't know if anybody's going to get it besides us, but do you have it, Quan?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
I don't know where that trend came from. I don't even know what it's all about. But I have seen some TikTok videos of like William Nylander, and this is a little bit unfair, just kind of skating around, not going in the corner, laying a hit. What's William Nylander doing? Nothing, hanging around. That's what George feels like every time he bets Pierre-Luc Dubois' shot prop over 2.5. There was a time where he hit 8 straight games in a row, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then George's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it. I'm like, it's a good matchup, man. He's been consistent. You got to do it. No Scheifele tonight. You got to get into it. He does it. And then what's Pierre-Luc Dubois doing? Nothing. Hanging around, just hanging around, not shooting any pucks, and the under hits, and George loses money on Pierre-Luc Dubois. Oh my goodness, too good. Those are the props. We got to break. We'll bring them up again after the block. Let's break one. We'll be back here for a final minute on Mean Street.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
All right, here's the NHL props. I just think Mitch Koff, man, like he is the 3rd best player in this draft. He maybe even the 2nd best. You know, a couple years ago when he was in the under 18, he actually outplayed Connor Bedard. And of course, Connor Bedard is going to go 1 today. Adam Fantilli is going to go 2. And I think Leo Carlson's going to go 3. And I think Will Smith is going to go 4. That exact order is plus 130 over at Bet365. But Mitch Koff to me is the 2nd best prospect, at least the 3rd best prospect in this draft, whether it's the Canadians at pick 5 or somebody else. Maybe they trade back. I would love to see the Canadians take this risk and go get him, knowing that he may not come over until 2026. And if he does fall to Washington, he's just straight up pulling a Jaromir Jagr and telling teams that he's not going to come over to North America and play. And he's going to fall into a situation where he's familiar with a couple fellow Russians, potentially with Ovechkin and the Capitals and Kuznetsov and things like that. But I think he's going to go 5th overall. I'm willing to do a little bit of a sprinkle here at plus 225. I got Colby Barlow over 14.5 picks, Oliver Moore over 14.5 picks, Otto Stenberg over 22.5 picks. I got Butt ahead of Sale. I got Danielson ahead of Matthew Wood. And Moldenik, I think, is arguably the best skater in this draft, a defenseman that I think will go under 28.5 picks as well. On the way out, MLB picks, quick time. We'll rapid fire through this. The Rangers against Detroit on the run line, minus 105 to win by 2. The Phillies with Aaron Nola on the bump. I just don't believe in Drew Smiley. On the road, I like the Phillies on the money line, and I like Cleveland with Logan Allen on the bump against one of the worst teams in baseball in Kansas City. And Dakota Sanga over 6.5 strikeouts. He's got a rock solid 2.52 ERA at home compared to on the road at 4.58. Opponents are only hitting 164 at home against him, and he's up against Milwaukee, and the Brewers check in with the 3rd highest strikeout rate in all of baseball. Give me Sanga over 6.5 strikeouts at plus 112. Good luck tonight with all your picks, all your props, or recap the madness that will be tonight in the NHL. Have a good one. Cheers.